Welcome in to the latest episode of Betting the Pitch presents the NFL podcast with A_Schnicker. I'm at the real underscore G Warner. We went 1-1 on our best bets to start the playoffs, but we are just primed and ready to go undefeated the rest of the way. I think that's what we're shooting for. I had the Philadelphia Eagles -4.5. That one climbed to 5.5 and did have a little bit of scary nature to it late in the game as the Packers were driving to potentially get one of those backdoor covers. But Jordan Love, I think, did what he did all day, which is not really hit his target.
Yeah.
Andrew Springer, you had the Denver Broncos over 46.5. I think that climbed all the way to 49. So we both got on the right side of each number. And it looked great when Bo Nix threw a long, long touchdown pass on the first possession of the game. I think the third play from
Yeah.
scrimmage. And then the Broncos doinked a field goal to end the first half and never really sniffed scoring again.
Yeah.
Still could have gotten there, but there was a lot of shenanigans. A walking over someone, unsportsmanlike conduct penalty at the 3 yard line, which really would have blown the game open and potentially got us the backdoor cover. I took the Broncos in that game as well, so I lost both ways. That was brutal. What did you think of the rest of the slate besides our best bets?
I thought Baltimore looked great. I thought, you know, we talked about the difference in the numbers with the Texans and just public perception and how it was really hard to find a way to get to see Texans at a field goal underdog at home. And that came to fruition with Justin Herbert. Whew, all sorts of interceptions. Not
Some
all his fault.
his
Not all
fault.
his fault.
Yes.
But
Yes.
my
As the
goodness.
Justin Herbert apologist, I expect you to come in with not his fault and the one finger up for to get me to wait. But I'm still kicking myself for not playing the Texans. I think what eventually told me not to do it, I instead played a first half and a full game under, which died in horrible fashion, as a
Yeah,
lot of
brutal.
them do. Um,
You got the first half home, right?
yeah, but like that's not a great feeling when it felt like I was trying to figure out how to spend the money for the entire game. Pick six will do that. But also, I think the Texans moving through three, getting bet to 2.5. That
Yeah.
made me think that if I'm gonna bet this and the Texans lose by three, I'm gonna lose my effing mind. Which I
Mhm.
spot it to three, as I've been doing that a lot this season, and a lot of times not really needing that protection, though there was one Vikings game on the road at Seattle where I took Seattle +3 and luckily pushed with. And if I hadn't paid a little extra juice, then that would have been a loss. Is that one time enough to do it? Probably not, but we can get into that debate maybe in the off seasons, betting the pitch NFL edition. For now, we have a pretty big slate from this weekend. We're gonna go through each of the games. We'll pick each of them at the end, but really just grade us on our best bets, and that's what we're shooting for. Um, I think if there's without further ado, we can get into the games because that'll
Yeah,
probably
let's do it.
allow us to talk about the others. I actually had BetOnline had put out some look ahead numbers for like any possible matchup, and then
Hmm.
my computer crashed and I lost them all. So don't have those, unfortunately. But I did make a bunch of numbers that now I was going to compare that mean nothing. So we'll I guess go in here. I want to make sure I actually reloaded this page recently, or at least because I try to track numbers myself from what I've seen versus the market trackers that are out there that I'm not sure I trust. So yes, okay, just refreshed. We'll start on Saturday in the I don't know, maybe the least interesting game, so we'll build up all the way to the most. We'll start with the Houston Texans 9 point underdogs on the road at Kansas City. Total is 41.5. And if you're watching on video on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, look for Betting the Pitch if you're not there already, or on YouTube at the real underscore G Warner. I am wearing a Chiefs shirt because,
Oh,
I
yeah.
figured why not get in the spot and ride all the way if any Swifties holla at me.
Okay. I don't know
Okay.
where to go after that one, but let's just start
It's
with
advertising, baby. Come on.
let's start with the we want to start let's start with the Texans offense.
Okay.
Um, which was uh, just disgusting down the stretch for the last month and a half. If you want to slice up when you're trying to make a handicap and you break it into, thirds of the season or whatever to look at trending metrics, disgusting, just awful to end the season. Um, And we kind of watched the Chiefs defense not truly be tested. I don't feel like they were tested all that much. Um, but they definitely have some holes as well. The defensive line's great. Um, so it's kind of like, are we going to buck the trends of what we've watched in the regular season because of, or is this CJ Stroud going to be the CJ Stroud that has performed pretty terribly in his sophomore season of the NFL? Do you have a hunch
So
there?
uh, I was really surprised that Laramie Tunsil was a Pro Bowler. And
Yeah, yeah,
maybe that's because the rest of the line is horrible, but I know he's probably the most famous left tackle of all time, besides Orlando Pace. Maybe when I think of left tackles, I think of him on draft night with a gas mask and
yes,
high as balls, which was good for him. And unfortunately, sank his draft stock a little bit. Could probably cost him a few $1 million, but he's made it up for that down the stretch.
certainly.
Um, I think CJ Stroud has looked horrible, still looked horrible in the first quarter. And I was thinking, whew, good thing I didn't take the Texans. I did join a NFL pool where you pick like each of the games and in a
Mm.
bracket style, which started out great for me because I did take the Texans, but that now it's a disaster because the Vikings, we'll get to that later.
Oh boy.
That ruined everything as I also had them taking out the Lions, which is not really happening anymore. So RIP to me. I think I was 4-1 to start with this, and now I'm done, I think. But
Oh no.
at this point, I mean, I took the Texans and I think I took the under, I want to say, in the first time these teams played. I think I split those and
Yeah.
felt kind of fortunate, though Houston was in it and looked good for a while. Then Tank Dell dislocated his knee, and I think there's not a lot of options for the Texans. I do think one option for them, if you're a DFS player or a prop player, potentially look at Joe Mixon scoring a touchdown. I'm sure it'll be expensive, but if you play DFS games, if you don't have that, there's a link in the podcast description to get a bonus at Sleeper Fantasy. I've been using that lately. It actually is allowed in Texas, believe it or not. Uh,
Yeah.
but I feel like, is what they have, and it's what they're going to do anytime they get in the red zone. The big question, though, as you said, maybe the Chiefs haven't been tested, but how often are they get down there?
And yeah, and how often I this Texans offense with basically Nico Collins and I mean Joe Mixon was terrible down the stretch too. It was like
I think Nico Collins is their guy and was a big reason why they looked so bad without him. But he
yeah.
can only do so much. And
No, he
like
kind of disappeared
Joel,
at the end of the season too.
I thought, to me, the issues a lot with the offense was that CJ Stroud was just no longer accurate and he was
Yeah.
the ball over, which he didn't do at all I was about to say freshman, as a rookie.
Yeah.
I think I don't know that that's changed necessarily, and I don't know how we will know, but I do know that the Texans were 3-point underdogs to the Los Angeles Chargers at home in the first round of a playoff scenario. And now we have the Chiefs, who are, to me, a lot better team. And even if you're just using 2.5 for home field advantage, that's looking like an 8-point number right there. I think the Chargers were 4-point underdogs on the road at KC the last time they played. So feels like the Chiefs, I mean, as weird as it sounds, at a 9-point favorite. I thought this was going to be 7.5. And when I was going over my guess, when I was listening to the Bill Simmons podcast, I was like, man, my guess is pretty low. And then I guess open 7.5 has climbed to 9. A lot of juice right now on the Texans, but who's betting the Texans right now?
I don't well, I think if you genuinely believe your number, if you're not looking at the market number and saying, okay, wait, yes, they close 2.5 or 3-point underdogs, but really this team should have been like a 1-point favorite or at least pick them at home, then I think you're probably still seeing value here, right? Um,
Maybe. I just feel like the numbers that are out there in the marketplace, I think a lot of my gambling career, I've been expecting adjustments, and I feel like it's just like, nope, these are the numbers, and
no,
nothing changes every week. This is what we are.
yeah,
So yes, maybe the Texans should have been favored. I guess that's an argument that could be made, and maybe that makes this line not look out of whack. But I still feel like even if the Texans and the Chargers played again this week, we might see a little bit of an adjustment. But I still think if this game was a game two or something like that of the Texans and the Chargers, I still think the Chargers would be favored in Houston.
no, I agree. I'm more meaning like if you're independently making your own power rankings, and you're doing your own numbers, um, and like you had even as a 1 point underdog last, like I'm saying you can make an adjustment, and I can make the case as you just talked about with the Chargers closing as 4 point underdogs at Arrowhead or whatever it's called now. Sorry. Like
GEHA Field. I thought it was Geha, but
it's
nope.
just
Patrick
GEHA.
Patrick
That's
read it out
just
letter by
rolls
letter.
off the tongue.
Yeah.
Like I think I could probably make this game 7. And then at some point, like when you're in no man's land at 9, where are you going to jump out on a limb on that? Like unless you get a 10.
Uh,
Um,
maybe we think of the teaser limitations here because people are trying to get this to 3 or so and
sure.
pair that with somebody else.
Yeah, I can't imagine that they're going to drop this. They don't want this to go to like 8.
I mean,
Yeah, there's certainly teaser protection there for sure.
we saw a ton of money come in on the Broncos. Speaking of, which we'll get to the Bills game last because that's last on the list. But um, I was really surprised to see how much Broncos money came in.
Yeah.
I don't really see that coming for the Texans. I gotta say,
No, I
like,
don't either.
I mean, yeah, they looked about as good as they could for the second, third, and fourth quarter. The first quarter was ugly. Like UGLOI, you ain't got no alibi. You ugly, like gross. And I don't know that there's a lot that has changed from what I've seen, to be frank. So, I don't really see who's betting the big underdog here. So this and favorites and overs usually are what's bet in playoff time. If you like the
Yeah.
Chiefs, I would probably get in sooner rather than later, especially at a pretty nice minus 102 currently at Bet Online. If you have an account there, if you don't, go make a first time deposit. Follow the links in the podcast description, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and on YouTube, and go get some free money. But I just don't know necessarily what um, the real Texan side here. I think if you like the Texans, you wait until kickoff or as close to it as you can, but make sure you check the kickoff times because they've been about 15 minutes late from scheduled so far this year. But you never
Mhm.
know when they finally start one on time and you're having a live bet. Those juices go crazy.
Right.
How about the total? 41.5 on this one. We're not making a pick
Yeah.
yet. We'll do that for each game, end of show. But I was expecting this one around 43. Weather, I think, is too far out to really make a huge statement comment
Right.
on.
Yeah.
Uh, but to me, I feel like the Texans, if they're gonna potentially have a chance of getting through this, which seems unlikely, they're gonna need and they're gonna try really hard to keep this a low scoring game, run the clock, I expect.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's the way to do it. Can you really grind out a team that's been just a whole they've Kansas City's been grinding out the whole this whole season.
Which
But
is true, but I also think like now they have Hollywood Brown, and I feel like the Kansas City offense looked, I mean, until we got to Christmas Day and they haven't played an actual meaningful
yeah,
game since
okay.
then. Like maybe
Yeah,
you could argue there's some rust there, but it was look that offense changed. I mean, maybe the Steelers defense became a shell of itself. Maybe
right.
the Texans really fell apart after a dislocated knee to one of their good guys on the team who just came back from a leg break the year before. But welcome to the NFL. I feel like we can see that anywhere. And just so you know, the weather on Sunday, 18-degree high in Kansas City.
Woo.
Wind only.
Saturday, right? Saturday?
Oh, there we go. So that's a huge day. Thank you for that catch. So Saturday, much better, 27. So we got I guess 150% of the temperature on Sunday, and the wind's still 11 miles an hour. So that's actually a big deal. That's I don't know how much 9 degrees matters, but I would think the 3 degrees nighttime forecast on Sunday. This is an early game, starts at 4:30, so 3:30 Central Time. So maybe it's not as going to be as cold as it will be, but used to playing indoors. Another reason that this might not go well for Houston.
Well, and there's going to be some people talking about Andy Reid trends. Andy Reid with a bye week, Andy week, 2 weeks to prepare. So there's all like the very surface level handicapping type stuff is going to not only obviously public perception, but it's just going to be an avalanche, I think, on the Chiefs.
So I think we should probably get our picks on this Tuesday night episode in as soon as possible before anything moves. Just kidding. We're using stale lines for or not moving lines for right now.
No, no, no.
The rest of this podcast for the remaining 34 minutes. We'll move next to the Saturday evening game, unless you have anything else you'd
No,
like to
let's
say about
let's
that one.
no, let's go.
I
Let's
feel
go.
like we have so much time to spend that we're always going to run out of it, though, as usual.
This is how we do it. We're like, oh, we got 4 games. We can like really dive in. And then like we'll get to the last game and there's 5 minutes left in the whole episode.
Beep, beep, beep. Oh my God, run, run, run.
Yeah.
So we'll go to the Washington Commanders, 9.5 point underdogs to the Detroit Lions. Total is 55 in this one in the beautiful city that is Detroit, home of the 2024 NFL Draft, which A_Snicker and the real underscore G Warner both attended in different outfits. One of our guys wore the same outfit the whole weekend. I think
That's true.
also for a hockey team, which is bizarre, but that's Chip. Chip will do what Chip wants to do, I guess.
I
Um,
don't think half that house showered during that
Probably
week.
not. I think the only thing that was showering in there was ganja, but we'll move on from there. No comment or confirmations on who was participating. But
No.
as one Derek used to say or did say, it's like a weed smoking Hall of Fame in there. So thank you to the Airbnb and sorry for Michigan deciding to
There
leave.
was quite a crew. There
Quite
was
a
quite a
crew.
crew that we were with.
So Washington, I actually made this number 10.5, which felt extremely high to me. And I tried to I think I made this the
Yeah.
biggest total of my year, besides maybe Minnesota and Detroit, but I had 52.5. Well, that was way short. We're 55 right now in the total, and the Commanders are actually a little bit inside that number at 9.5 point underdogs. You picked Washington in your game by game picks last week. I actually gave that out on pregame.com, and that worked out very well. Back and forth game looked like the Bucks were going to seize control towards the end.
Yeah.
And then Jaden Daniels did Jaden Daniels things. Um, does this number feel a lot bigger to you, 9.5 point favorites, after what we saw happen to Sam Darnold on Monday night?
Cool. Well, I don't know if that's a fair comparison.
Why not?
Um, I who are you taking, Jane Daniels or Sam Darnold? And putting Jane Daniels behind the Vikings offensive line probably makes a difference there too.
Did we know that
Um,
the Vikings offensive line had so many problems? Because they had
well,
lost a left tackle against the Rams early in the season, and then all of a sudden it seemed like they'd fixed everything.
yeah, well, Cam Robin, they traded for Cam Robinson. I think it was like a fourth
Yep.
round pick,
Yep.
and he was good for like a game and a half. And I was like, okay, maybe this is gonna work. And then the last like month uh, was terrible. And that you can't, I'm not gonna blame it all on Cam Robinson, but like he has been very inconsistent throughout his career. And man, it was terrible. It was almost like sad to watch what Darnold was not able to do. Like I root for I want all these guys to do well, especially like getting a comeback like this. And it looked like he was back with the Jets,
Seeing
years ago,
ghosts, saying it
seeing
on
ghosts.
national
It was
television when Kyle
um,
made a noise like, "Oh my God, wait, he actually said
he
that?"
actually said that out loud. What?
Yeah.
Um, okay, so let's look to Saturday night. To do that, we'll go back a little bit. When Washington has been its most successful this year. And by the way, like I thought last week there was two fourth down failures. So I
Unheard
don't
of.
really
Unheard of for Washington.
sure. But and by the way, Detroit's gonna go for it on fourth down every time too. So we could have a
If
lot of
only that
variance.
was a prop.
We love variance in this sport, so that's going to be a lot of it. Let's see fourth down conversions.
I'm naming my
Um,
kid variants just to make sure I'm always on the right side.
is
No
that a
kids.
joke? Did you
No,
find
no,
that from somewhere else, or did you make that up?
I just did, but there are no kids in sight, hopefully. So, with my recent behavior now, I'm a little concerned.
Careful, careful.
Trying to be.
Okay, where?
We don't have a
Okay,
condom
let's
marketing
Washington.
agent on a
So when
podcast
they've been
spot.
their most successful in these underdog roles, is really, you think of Jaden Daniels as this dynamic playmaker he is, but they've controlled the clock. Like they've run the ball enough to just keep churning out first downs and then making splash plays along the way. And to me, that feels like the right strategy here. It's whether they can pull it off or not. Um, it's kind of, I mean, we could go back, obviously last week. We could look at way back. I'm thinking, man, it was like the second week of the season with Cincinnati, or third week, Monday Night Football. Just played keep away. Every time they're facing a dynamic offense like that, it's really going to have to be like, okay, let's just see if we can stay on the field, limit the possessions. And it's worked. and it could certainly work if you're um
So that'd be week three. They
three.
won 38 to 33 at Cincinnati, and that was coming
Yep.
off a 7 field goal effort
Yeah.
against the
Against the
Giants,
Giants.
which I
Yes, that's
actually
right.
had the Commanders a 1 point
That's right.
favorite in that
Yeah.
game, and somehow
I had Washington against the Bengals that Monday night game.
that also worked out well.
Um,
Okay, so
so that's the recipe. Can they, what do you think? Like that is that a sound strategy? It's not normally how in 2025 how teams want to play football, but like it's worked for them this year.
I think that was something you did against the Lions when they were at full strength, and you were just terrified of them crushing you, killing you, everything. It worked. The Bucks won in Detroit with that same type of plan, profile, all those sort of things. I know because I had over in that one, and all of a sudden,
Yeah,
a
and that was
lot of
not fair. Like it should have gone
difficulty
over.
with that, plus um, I think slow game plans or slow to hike the football, and then also just not a lot of red zone conversions was the big problem. Um, I'm curious, just as we reference the Minnesota problems, they couldn't block the Lions, certainly, though Minnesota, and a lot of why I really liked them in this opening round was that they missed all these opportunities and just couldn't score from inside the 5 yard line. And that I felt was going to
Yeah,
be some really nice variance. Too bad they just didn't really get there on Monday night. But
right.
last night, I guess, recording this Tuesday, January 14th, 2025. I just wonder, I mean, 9.5 points, so many to give Jaden Daniels. And there's a really good chance that this is a uh, 10-point game late and you're not going all the way in to try to score a touchdown. They're going to kick a field goal and try to get it to 7. We've seen that happen a lot this year, especially when I have a +3 in my pocket, hoping that we can get inside that number, but they always
Sure.
kick the field goal. Sometimes they miss it, and then I just lose my
And
mind
then
in
they
all
lose.
directions.
Yeah.
Um, I'm wondering if I mean the Lions defense looked better than it actually is. That it's been a problem for a long time. And yes, they got Anzalone back. They've gotten a new just blitz the heck out of everyone, but that was the Sam Darnold game. So we haven't
Right.
seen the Lions defense play well besides that game in a very long time. And I don't know, like to me, they are not healthy. We know that. The Commanders certainly have some issues. I don't know if the Commanders can run the football, and that's a big problem if it's all Jaden
hmm
Daniels, but
hmm
maybe that's what we want.
Yeah, I mean, does it, I'm going to ask you point blank, watching the Vikings struggle against the Rams defensive front that is, I mean, promising, but still very, very young. Does that make you question what we saw with Detroit in the
100%.
finale?
Because I didn't believe them going in. I think this is 1,000%, 1,000,000% overreaction season in the playoffs because you watched and you saw what you just saw, which makes me think that when we get to the Rams, I'm going to be far too over the moon about them. Um, but the difference here is that we haven't seen the Lions because they didn't play last weekend. They had the bye, which is huge and is not
Yes.
something to be overlooked. Plus, playing at home where Detroit I feel like last year they had the huge fan crowd base, whatever. But it should be, I think, if it's not at the same level, it should be still really, really good. And maybe not
Oh yeah,
the
it's
cream
gonna be
rising to the top, but it'll be
crazy.
close, I think. The
Yeah.
big question is when you get over a touchdown, it's really hard to win these games by like the Eagles were literally dominating the Packers anywhere but the scoreboard, and then had to hold on for dear life when Jordan Love barely showed up with depleted wide receiver core. That's
Yeah.
certainly not the Lions' problem. I think we haven't talked about the Lions' offense at all. Jared Goff's is indoors. That's a big deal, though. I think he's kind of put the rumors or
Yeah, he
the
really
can't
has.
throw it
It doesn't
outside
matter.
to
Yeah.
bed. Granted, he played a really bad Bears team and then also a 49ers team that had nothing to play for and honestly was hopefully tanking for draft picks. I think that would have been intelligent if they want to get back to the Super Bowl. Um, I just like anything above a touchdown, it's really hard for me to want to play a favorite. We will be picking each of these games at the end of the show, so we'll see where that goes. How about, do you have any feel for the total? 55 is huge, and we could get
Huge.
there, but we could also like really, really struggle to get there because that requires a lot of conversion in the end zone. That requires both teams trying to run the football at
Yeah.
very high speeds and really not run the football much because you need a lot of whistles and incompletions in order for that to happen. And I feel like in the NFL in 2025, you don't have balls hitting the ground.
I think kind of like what we just spelled out, that's potentially the path to an under is if you're looking at Washington as the side, then you could probably look under because Washington really only has one way to do it, and that's with Jaden Daniels to keep drives alive and just keep extending. But with that being said, like even that strategy, I could see it flying over just as fast. You know what I mean? Like if Detroit doesn't want to play ball like that and they're just giving up explosives to Jaden Daniels, then you're toast. Um, it's like we've talked about it before. I have a hard time thinking anybody who's like a numbers guy, really, really, running models on this, they're gonna have a hard time getting like to 55 on this total. But like there's so many more elements to it than just a number and saying, wow, my model doesn't get me to 55 here. It would be pretty scary to go under.
Yeah, which also, if it's at 55 now, I mean, there's probably a lot of under
Yeah.
money that will be out there. And 56, you could, I mean, I don't know what's key number at this point, but like, I mean,
56 doesn't matter as much to me than 55, honestly.
because we saw the Vikings and the Lions last game of the season get as high as 56 and a half, I have written down.
Hmm.
I feel like we might be pushing for the highest total of the season. I don't remember a total being this high, like besides that game I just mentioned. And we're gonna have a lot of money coming in Saturday night. I expect a lot of people to be eyes all over this one. And a competitive game certainly does help this hit the over. And if you see that happening, then I don't really know where to go with the total. That's if that's a hint for where I might go with my pick on this game. Moving to
Yeah.
Sunday, we have the Los Angeles Rams visiting the Philadelphia Eagles. Looks like the Rams 5.5 point underdogs. Total is 44 in this matchup. Big question. What'd you see from Jalen Hurts on Sunday?
Well, it was I didn't love it. I'll be nice that way. I didn't love it. Um, but I think we kind of expected that, right? Three
It's
weeks
been a
off,
while since he played.
huh?
It had been a while since he had
Been a
played.
while. I mean, to jump right into like high intensity playoff, but I was not. I mean, Jalen Hurts to me is not the way this engine goes, and Saquon um, was excellent from the jump, and that's something that has not always happened this year. Um, I also kind of wanted to talk about just this matchup.
Please.
We've watched it. We saw it before in Los Angeles, and I watched Philadelphia just beat their ass. And I also am questioning, and I'm leading all this because then I'm gonna be like, Griffin, why are you so excited about the Rams? Um, or maybe I'm putting words in your mouth. Why are you higher on the
Why would you
Rams?
ever do that? You know?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Because I would not put the Rams and the Packers even on a neutral. Not even a banged up Jordan Love. They're not even on a neutral.
Okay, meaning what? Who's better?
I would have the Packers better. And I know that at this time last week, the Packers were 4.5, but they closed 5.5, right?
Did. They did.
Um, and this probably is going to go. I think if you want the Rams, you might as well just wait.
I mean, I think that's right. I think the only thing that would potentially, I guess, put some damper on that or potentially keep this number here is just how good the Rams looked. But I feel like a lot of the narrative, at least watching the game and hearing Troy and Joe Buck go about it, is it was a Sam Darnold bad show, essentially. And I wonder if that is, here we are again, 10 minutes notice as we have still one game to get through, but we'll make it happen. Um, I think the Rams looked really impressive twice against the Vikings this season. And I wonder if that's just like one of those perfect matchups for them because you have the blitz and it's supposed to be a hidden blitz, but you always know there's only so many guys coming. And Stafford seems to me like he's best at making a quick read, knowing where the blitz is coming, even if it's masked, then figuring out another
Mhm.
place to go and somehow laterally the ball to a receiver he couldn't see that hit the ground, returned for a touchdown, and then getting an overturn. But
That was
um,
insane. That
the
was
different
awful.
that I mean that would have swung the game if that was withheld and withstood. And honestly, the NFL, I don't know how you can trust the refs, but I guess Matthew Stafford's been doing it a long time, so maybe that's how. Um, I think the Rams to me, with Puka Nacua, who's kind of not really done that much in the last few weeks. Cooper Kupp's been on a milk carton. I don't. I mean, I picked the Eagles to win the Super Bowl in my little pool thing, partly because I didn't think a lot of people would do it, but also because that defense is terrifying.
Mhm.
Um, I think the Rams have a great setup to go against any defense because they're going to throw the ball quickly and get it out fast. That's how they control the ball. They're going to give the ball to Kyron Williams a million times by the end zone. And also, if you want a DFS play, maybe just go Joe Mixon and Kyron Williams anytime touchdowns. That probably is a way to do it if they make you take players from two different teams. But I got to say, the Rams looked impressive to me. 5.5 is kind of like a wishy-washy number. There's not a lot of safety there unless they lose by a field goal or something in between.
Yeah.
6 is different. I think 6.5 is more different. 7 is a lot different. Um, I don't know that we're going to get that high though. I think we could see it move to 6, and the juice is certainly pointing that direction right now. Do you think it gets to 7?
I don't think they have a problem moving it to 7 if they start just getting hit by like big players. I don't think they'll have a problem moving it to 7. Um, but you probably don't need to. I would if I were putting numbers on this, I would be ready to move it to 7. You know, obviously following the market and sticking in within where everyone's at. But like once it started going, I would not shy away from going to 7.
And I think we should use the remaining time that we have for the biggest game on the list. And I think there's a lot to talk
What do
about.
we? Yeah, yeah.
Uh, it is, if I slide over a little bit if you're watching on video, I've totally hedged my bets.
Oh,
I don't know. I feel like this Ravens like little uh scarf has shown up and I can't remember where I got it. I think it was from an ex-girlfriend's father that gave it to me. But anyway, I guess now it's a prop in a an NFL episode on Betting the Pitch Podcast Network. The Ravens scarf is behind me. They're 1 point favorite now at home, or excuse me, on the road at Buffalo. Total is 51.5. Okay. I initially saw a pick 'em.
yeah.
Apparently, according to Bill Simmons' cousin Sal, it was Bill's a 1.5 point favorite and has moved all the way to the Ravens a favorite. I was kind of interested in getting the Ravens as an underdog, but this is way different now.
Is it way different? Plus
You're,
one
I
versus
mean,
minus one?
you're essentially picking a winner. But like if you were looking to play a money line, get plus money on it and hope to it was a coin flip, that's gone. Because
Yeah.
you're paying
Okay.
into it. It's not because I was expecting the Ravens to lose by one and I would win my plus 1.5. But to me, I think there's a lot of sentiment there. I also think this is saying something about the teaser market because if you could go get the
Mhm.
Bills 7 point underdogs at home with a 6 point teaser, that's gonna open up like who is if you're a teaser player, like who isn't grabbing the Bills +7 and the Chiefs -3 right now?
I would rather get Chiefs under 3, but yes. You
Okay.
know I'm a teaser player. I'll play some teasers.
I
Um
am not, so I don't know what the life is like, but I know the
I
long teasers
well
all.
usually, here's the thing is though, I try to avoid the ones that seem the most obvious because that's usually where you get your ass kicked.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. Yes, I understand what you're saying. The sentiment there, the change, sports gambling and all of this is it's just been it's soaked into like the conversation around sports now. I mean, we're perpetuating it with content, whatever else it is, but
Make
like
sure you subscribe and follow and listen to us every week. Yes.
that's right. But like everyone talks about it. And so I do think like there's more awareness to that. I think that if you're smart, you can use it as a motivational chip. How long does that last? Not very long. But it is a good talking point. The Falcon or not the Falcons, my goodness, the Ravens, different bird.
Birds.
The Ravens have probably been the best defense in the NFL over the last month. They, if Lamar Jackson is going to take off and be the MVP, then my goodness, we're gonna have such an amazing game Sunday evening. Um, I don't know if there's gonna be another playoff game that I'm more looking forward to than this one, honestly. All the other matchups to me don't feel as exciting.
I mean, this is the creme de la creme. Tony Romo, Jim Nantz, just going after each other. They're going to be orgasming all over the screen.
It's
Total
gonna be
51 and a
ridiculous.
half in this one, 51 and a half.
Yeah.
Unless we are seeing some bad weather, which I'll check as I type this. Like where are the points going to stop? Looks like it might even snow a little bit, 20% chance of precipitation, 18 degrees on Sunday. Snow showers, a low of 14, it looks like. So it's going to be cold. But there's this man named Derrick Henry that's really tough to tackle when it's cold.
Yeah, I don't know where the points. You're right. I don't know where the points are going to stop. The splits on this total are going to be out of control for the total. Actually, I would love to see the splits for all the totals this weekend. It's going to be great. Yeah, I mean, to me, I've went with Baltimore all last postseason, um, and I'd still probably lean that way this postseason again. And I know we're nearing up where we're going to start making all of our picks, but
Yeah, we're running out
it's
of
just
time as always. So of course we'll
I
get
think
into
this is just a
now.
great matchup. We've seen this one before. It was granted it wasn't Baltimore, it was a long time ago, but we've seen this one. I think this works out really well for Baltimore.
All right, we got to do rapid fire now.
Yeah.
Texans 9 point underdogs, 41.5 is the total at Kansas City.
Okay. Give me the Texans. Give me the dogs.
Okay, I'm going with Kansas City 9 point favorite, though it pains me. Washington 9.5 point underdogs at Detroit, totals 55.
Give me another underdog. 9.5.
I will join you on the Washington Commanders. Moving to Sunday, Rams 5.5 point underdogs, total is 44 at Philadelphia.
Give me the Eagles.
I'll go with the Rams 5.5 point underdogs. And last but not least, the Baltimore Ravens 1 point favorite at the Buffalo Bills, totals 51.5.
Man, Buffalo is gonna melt down. That fan base is gonna lose it.
Ooh,
But
ooh.
who am I gonna am I ever gonna pick with Sean McDermott in a game of consequence? Not a chance. We're going Baltimore.
Ravens -1. I'll go over 51.5. All right, your best
Okay.
bet for this episode.
Let's go Saturday night. We just talked about it. I'll take the Commanders. Let's just have fun with it. Although it's worth 9.5. Who cares? Might as well wait and see if we get to 10.
Okay, I like it. I guess it's time for me to record my video portion.
Yeah.
Hey, this is the real underscore G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. This is the NFL edition of Betting the Pitch. We went through each of the games on the NFL playoff card, the divisional round, and I'm with my guy A underscore Schnicker. We went 1-1 in our best bets last week. Schnicker for his pick on this episode is going with the almost said Nationals, Washington Commanders 9.5 point underdogs on the road at Detroit on Saturday evening. For my best bet on the real underscore G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. I'm going to go with the Washington Commanders, 9.5 point underdogs for a double best bet on this episode. We'll see how that goes. We'll see who's crying afterwards. Hopefully, it's Detroit Lions backers, and you might want to wait a little bit longer, but we use current lines. So grab the double best bet, A underscore Schnigger and at the real underscore G Warner, both going with the Washington Commanders, 9.5 point underdogs on the road Saturday night. Jaden Daniels, please listen to all the Eminem you can and make sure you get in that end zone. That'll do it for this episode. Thank you all for tuning in. We will see you on the next edition Tuesday night where we discuss the championship weekend games. Oh my gosh, it's amazing how quick the season goes. And then we'll try to figure out what to do for the Super Bowl, figure out what Gatorade color so I can't lose more money like I did last year on purple or blue or whatever I picked. We'll see y'all later. Thanks for tuning in. Follow at the real underscore G Warner and at A underscore Snicker for more on Twitter.